Hi Scholar, welcome to the first video of the 10 video series by Map of English as we guide you to acing your SPM English speaking test. This lesson will begin with me, Teacher XJ, reading out the sample, and after the reading session, I will be explaining to you on how to analyze the question, elaborate on your answer, as well as point out what should you be aware of. Hope you have your booklet or notebook at the ready. Let's begin. Now, we will take a look at the SPM English Speaking Test Part 1. In my opinion, Part 1 is the easiest because they normally ask you very basic, very simple questions such as, what's your name? Where are you from? Do you live far away from school? What is your favorite subject? Things like that. Okay, so let's see this sample answer. Good morning, I'm Teacher XJ and this is my colleague Mr. Matthew. He'll just be listening to us. What's your name? My name is Noor Anis binti Abdullah. What about you, Candidate B? My name is Lim Siu Meng. Where do you live, Candidate A? I live just a stone's throw away from school, in Taman Merah, madam. Candidate B, how do you come to school? By car, madam. My father would drop me off at school before he goes to work. Now, I'm going to ask you about your hobbies. Candidate A, what is your hobby? My hobby is jungle trekking and I have had this hobby since I was 10 years old. Since I am an outdoor person, I will usually go jungle trekking during the weekends. Interesting. Who introduced you to this hobby? My father, madam. He took me on his jungle trekking trips often when I was a child, and I came to love the sport later on when I became older. Candidate B, could you tell us about your hobby? I do have one, but it's a rather uncommon hobby considering the digital era that we live in. I love to collect stamps. Why do you say it's an uncommon hobby? It is because there are plenty of people who are obsessed with being online influencers and are actively involved in creating digital content, collecting action figures of their favorite characters or shows, and going on vacations. My stamp collection hobby is considered an outdated hobby that was popular decades ago. Nevertheless, I still enjoy what I do during my free time. I see. Thank you for the explanation. Okay, now I'm going to explain what we have just read in our part 1, yeah? So, of course, as usual, the interlocutor is going to start off the whole test by greeting you good morning, introduce who this interlocutor is, and normally there will be another person, okay, the interlocutor's colleague or another teacher who will be listening to the test, okay? But this teacher will not be talking or saying anything. He or she will just be listening. Okay, so when they ask your name, right, always answer with your full name, the name of your IC. Okay, don't suddenly, like, let's say we take the name Candidate B, Lim Siu Meng. Okay, this is an IC name, right? Don't suddenly go, my name is Linda Lim Siu Meng, but the name Linda is not part of her IC. You cannot say that, yeah? Do not talk about your nickname. Okay, do not mention like whatever English name you have put down for your name. Okay, just your original name that is on your IC. Okay, so when they ask you where you live and all those things, common questions, remember to always answer with full sentences. Okay, if they ask you, Candidate A, where do you live, don't just say Taman Merah, not just 2 words. Okay, because like you must remember when we are doing this kind of speaking test, right, what the interlocutor is actually looking at is to see whether you can speak well. They don't want like the yes or no question or answers where you only say a few words. If you only say a few words, right, how would the interlocutor know that you can actually speak the language? Yes, we know you can understand, but how do we know whether you can speak or not? Right or not? Okay, so always answer with full sentence or full sentences, yeah, when they ask you something. Okay, so when they ask you other questions, okay, such as, I'm going to ask you about your hobbies. What is your hobby? Here you can give elaborations. Don't just say, my hobby is swimming. That's it. Don't just say that. Okay, just say, my hobby is swimming. How often do I go swimming? Or where do I learn swimming from? Who did I learn to swim from? Where do I go swimming? Okay, just now I spoke a bit too fast. Accidentally mixed 2 points together. But you get what I mean, okay? You need to give a little bit of elaboration. Of course, not very long. I don't expect you in like part 1, right, we don't expect you to speak for like 1 minute or 5 minutes for that one thing. It's too long already. Okay, just make sure you are able to give a little bit of elaborations or a little bit of reasoning as to why you said what you said. Okay, so for phase 2, okay, let's say, right, okay, so sometimes when you certain words or certain sentences you say might trigger the interlocutor to ask you questions about why you said that particular thing. Like candidate A, she started off by saying that she loves to collect stamp, but she also mentioned that it's an uncommon hobby. Okay, it's not a normal hobby in the digital era that we're living in. Okay, and then the interlocutor can ask you, why do you say it's an uncommon hobby? Why is it not considered as a usual or normal hobby? So you have to be very careful with your words. Okay, don't use like certain words just for the sake of making your sentences sound nicer. Okay, because when you use some special words such as it's an uncommon hobby, the interlocutor may ask you questions. Of course, I'm not saying that they will definitely ask you questions, but who knows? Okay, when they suddenly catch on to that word, they got interested. Why do you say that particular vocabulary? Why did you say that particular word? And then obviously they're going to ask you about it. Just like how if your friend said something weird or one uncommon word that you never heard them say before, you're going to ask them, oh, why did you say that? Okay, so you have to prepare an answer for that. Okay, don't suddenly go and your brain is blank, your brain is empty. Okay, so for me, right, normally in this part 1, like I said just now, common questions are, what is your name? What's your favorite subject? How do you go to school? What do you normally do in school? What is your hobby? What else? How many family members do you have? Are you close with your family members? I think these kind of common questions, before your speaking test, you need to already have, like, write it in your notebook or on your test pad, have an answers at the ready. Okay, because for me, from what I've observed anyway, part 1 is usually these kind of questions, but questions that would be asked in part 2 and part 3 of your speaking test is not certain. Okay, but you must remember one thing is it always has something to do with factual essays, not essays lah, but factual points. Okay, so why do I mention essays? Because like certain factual essays, like the benefits of sports, the consequences of not preparing for your exams, all these are about facts, right? So you can actually prepare some of the answers in advance already, as well as your elaboration. Like I said, for part 2 and part 3, it's very difficult to guess what type of topic is coming out, so that's why I really highly suggest you to prepare some answers in advance first instead of getting surprised. Okay, so now moving on to the SPM English Speaking Test Part 2. Part 2 is when the candidates, okay, candidate A, candidate B, you don't need to engage in a discussion just yet, but you must know you will have 1 minute to talk about whatever topic that they are giving you, but before that you have 20 seconds to think about it. So that's why I say that you should always do your preparations. You should already start training yourself to be able to think of what points, what elaborations, or what examples you want to say way before you go for your English speaking test. Okay, because if you're not, you think about it, right? If you're not prepared for an exam, how will you be able to answer the questions? Right, in exam, we don't necessarily know what kinds of questions is going to come out. We, at the most, just know the topic, the subject, the chapters that will come out, right? So always be prepared, okay? Go on Google. You can just type, maybe it's the SPM's past years English speaking test or whatever. Look at the topics, okay, and train yourself to come up with the points in a few seconds. Okay, maybe in the beginning when you're training yourself, maybe give yourself 5 minutes to come up with the points and elaborations, but eventually decrease, okay, the time that you use to think of the points, because this helps to train your brain to work in a fast way. Okay, so maybe in the beginning you start off by doing 1 practice a day. Eventually one practice every 2 or 3 days. Okay, so for me, right, because I am so used to thinking about points because of essays, because of speaking tests, honestly, I can tell you, right, it just takes me at the most 10 seconds to think of all the points and elaborations that I want. Okay, but of course, I don't expect you to be at my level just yet, but I'm hoping that you can catch up to my level. But I'm giving you the tips on how to come up with quicker points in a shorter amount of time. You really need to train yourself. There is really no shortcut to get around this long route of success. Okay, anyways, let's see what the interlocutor has to say for the beginning of part 2. Now, in the second part of the test, I'm going to give each of you a topic, and I would like for you to talk about it on your own for about a minute. You also need to answer a question briefly about your partner's topic. Candidate A, you shall go first. Here is your task. I'd like you to talk about a holiday you have taken recently. First, you have some time to think about what you are going to say. Okay, for this part, right, since you already bought this lesson, I'm sure that you have already received the booklet in your email. So please refer to the task that is in the booklet, yeah? Because I didn't put it here because there's not enough space for me to put it. So please refer to your booklet, okay? Candidate A. As our last school holiday was quite a long one, my parents decided to give the family a treat by bringing us to Korea. I was both thrilled and delighted to be going on this trip as I have been a big fan of K-pop, Korean fashion and skincare. We have visited many famous sites such as Dongdaemun, Gyeongbokgung Palace, where I got to rent a gorgeous hanbok, which is Korea's traditional wear. And the best part of this trip was I got to visit Everland, a theme park where the world's steepest roller coaster is located at. I've always been a thrill seeker, and the roller coaster exceeded my expectations by the steepness and angles it was going. It was the first time I felt fearful on a ride. There were a few important preparations to do before our departure. We needed to do research on places to visit, book our flights and hotel, as well as purchase SIM cards for internet access. One of Korea's policies is that tourists have to be vaccinated, so we made sure to prepare our vaccination cards in advance for the customs to check. It is good to go overseas for a vacation every now and then to explore new cultures and gain new experiences. But my perspective about this is that we should only spend what we can afford, especially if we were to go on a vacation annually. Thank you. Candidate B, have you gone on a holiday recently? Where did you go and did you enjoy yourself? I went on a holiday not too long ago, but unlike Candidate A, I visited a local town, which was Malacca, a state filled with historical culture. I enjoyed myself immensely with its Nyonya food and visiting the famous sites. Thank you. Candidate A, I would like the booklet back, please. Candidate B, for your task, I would like you to talk about your pet. First, you have some time to think about what you are going to say. Okay, as usual for this part, please refer to the topic that is given to you in your booklet, yeah? You may begin. My pet has been with me ever since it was a puppy. And it is just a dog of normal breed as I have adopted it from the animal shelter. From time to time, I will volunteer to help out at our local animal shelter, either by cleaning the animals' cages, bringing them out on walks, or feeding the stray animals on the streets. I came across Max when I was helping the animal shelter to rescue stray animals from the streets, and it looked so sad and vulnerable. And I knew there and then, Max's needs are simple. As long as it had food, water, some toys, and a roof over its head, it was pretty happy. And I know Max is happy with me, as I don't think I ever saw it without its tail wagging vigorously. Every few months, I would bring it to a vet for its medical checkups, and once a year, I would bring it to the groomers. A lot of my friends say that I should have spent the money to buy an expensive dog breed as they think it'll be more impressive. But I disagree, as the animals that are in the animal shelter would be put down months after failing to be adopted. In fact, I highly encourage everyone to go to the nearest animal shelter to check out the gems they have there. Max is just as loyal as any other dog, and I'm sure they would be able to find a suitable pet for themselves too. Thank you. Candidate A, do you have a pet of your own? I do. It's a tiny yellow canary, and I love listening to it sing, and sometimes when my parents are not at home, I will let my canary fly around the house freely. Of course, I will make sure to shut my doors and windows first. Thank you. Candidate B, do return the booklet to me, please. Now we're going to be moving on to the part 2's explanation. Okay, so we're just going to jump right into the 1 minute topic that you both candidates have to talk about. Okay, so looking at the booklet that I gave you, so the first point that we had to come up with when we are talking about a holiday we have taken recently was, where did you go for your holiday? Okay, so obviously you had to mention where did your family bring you. Okay, this is what I like to do in the beginning of my essays or the beginning of my speech. I like to give some sort of introduction, okay, by mentioning some very simple, just mention, oh, as our last school holiday was quite a long one, my parents decided to give the family a treat. Okay, means like to make the family happy, okay, to give the family a treat by bringing us to Korea. So instead of saying, during our last school holidays, my family and I spent 2 weeks in Korea. Okay, you can change the ways you say this sentence, because I'm pretty sure terms like during the last school holidays, 2 weeks ago, blah 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 blah, is very, very common, and a lot of the students will be using it. So we need to upgrade our words, our sentences a little bit, and we want to stand out from the rest of the candidates, right? So we change the way we can say this during the last school holidays to, as our last school holiday was quite a long one. Okay, just mention that. Okay, and the next criteria that you had to answer was what activities you have done during the holidays. So obviously this one, since you are visiting Korea, just mention the places that you have visited. Okay, Dongdaemun, Bokgong Palace. Okay, and you can briefly mention during these times, what did you do there? Okay, and can you see the sentence where I wrote where I got to rent a gorgeous hanbok? So some people, they don't know what is a hanbok, so we had to briefly explain. It's a Korea's traditional wear. Okay, and the word gorgeous, it means beautiful, right? So this is what we call an adjective. Okay, words to describe things like tall, short, fat, beautiful. All these are adjectives. So if possible, add adjectives into your descriptions. Okay, and we can also mention the third activity that we did was going to the theme park, Everland. Okay, so not everyone will know what is Everland. So again, we briefly mentioned that it is a theme park. You will notice, after I mentioned where I got to rent a gorgeous hanbok, then I put a comma, okay, which is Korea's traditional wear. So that is me pausing, okay, instead of explaining the whole thing in one breath, in one whole sentence, I take a pause every now and then. Okay, same thing goes with Everland. I take a short pause. Okay, you don't need to pause for 5 seconds or 10 seconds, that's too long already. Okay, before explaining that Everland is actually a theme park. Okay, and why did I say this is the best place that I visited in Korea? I mentioned it is because it has the world's steepest roller coaster. Actually, I just realized there's a typo here. It's actually the world's 4th steepest roller coaster. But, in your speaking test, the interlocutor wouldn't really be looking at your facts that much. Okay, it's okay, no worries. They are looking more towards on how fluent, okay, you can speak English. So if you feel like you say a fact wrongly, just a tiny bit, okay, obviously not the kind of wrong is like, oh, a rainbow has 6 colors. That is crossing the line a little bit, okay, but you must know at the end of the day, we are just looking at your fluency, okay? We are not looking, of course we are looking at your content, but the main thing that we are looking at is how fluent can you speak, okay, and whether you have any ideas when you're talking or are you going out of topic, okay? So the next question, okay, I also the next elaboration that I did was, why did I say that I was looking forward to going to the theme park is because I am a thrill seeker. I love going on roller coasters. And how did this particular roller coaster make you feel? Were you afraid? Were you excited? All those other things, okay? But careful not to go off topic by going on and on and on about the theme park, okay? Because you're not really talking about the theme park as one place only. Remember, your general topic was about a place that you visited, okay, and the theme park is just one of the elaborations, so don't need to elaborate too much on it, okay, because you only have 1 minute, right, to talk about your point. So, oh yeah, and also I forgot to mention one thing. It is not necessary for you to come up with this long paragraph, okay, for me, because I speak quite fast, okay, and I'm very used to coming up with ideas to answer this kind of topic, so my answers tend to be longer, okay, so don't rush through your speech, okay, to the point that the interlocutor cannot understand what you are saying, okay, that would be bad. All right, so make sure just take your own pace, but of course don't be as slow as a snail. That would be too slow already, okay, just do whatever you can. Doesn't have to be long. You just need to answer the 4 questions, the 4 points that they gave you. That's it. Okay. All right. The next point that we are going to be looking at that they asked us was what preparations you need to do before going on your holiday. So you can see the numbers there. I mentioned 4 things. We needed to do research, book our flight and hotel, buy SIM cards, and prepare our vaccination cards. So you can see when I summarize the points, okay, we need to do research on places to visit, book our flight and hotel, buy SIM cards, and prepare our vaccination cards. It'll be very short, right? So let's do a little bit of elaboration, okay? And our last point, they are asking us if it is important to go overseas for a holiday. So I mentioned it is good to go overseas for a holiday every now and then, but we must only spend on what we can afford, especially if we were to go on a vacation every year. Annually means every year. So if you feel like in this sentence, I'm saying that it's actually not important to go overseas for a holiday. But just in case you are afraid that the interlocutor cannot understand you, you can mention in the beginning. Personally, I do not see it as something important to go overseas for a holiday, especially if the holiday is something that happens every year. You can just mention very, very clearly which side you are standing on. Then obviously you need to elaborate later on why do you think it's not important to go overseas for a holiday. You can mention something like, the purpose of us having a holiday in general is to let our hair down, is for us to relax. So if we were to go to an overseas country for a holiday and put a strain on our financial burden, it will only burden us at the end of the day, and we will not be entirely relaxed when we are supposed to be enjoying our holiday. You can mention something like that, okay? A little bit of elaboration. All right, now our second topic for candidate B was talking about their pet, right? So it started off by saying that what kind of pet it was. Obviously, if you have a cat, if you have a dog, you can mention what breed it was. But let's say if it's a mixed breed, you can mention it's a mix between a corgi and a husky, for example. Okay, and then did you adopt or buy this pet? So obviously in this paragraph, I mentioned that this pet was adopted and it was from the animal shelter, and I gave a little bit of elaboration on how I come to adopt this dog from the animal shelter. Okay, because in the past I used to volunteer at the local animal shelter, and I came across this dog when it was a puppy, when it was wandering on the streets. Okay, but however, if you say you bought this pet, you can mention maybe you bought this pet because you have finally saved up enough money to buy this pet from a pet store, or maybe it was a reward, or all those other things. Okay, just come up with a story. Okay, and then the next point that they asked you to elaborate on was what does it need. Oh yeah, speaking of it, make sure when you're talking about your pet, right, because this is an English speaking test, right, always use it. I know that on social media, we always see like those social media influencers using he or she when they describe the gender of their pet. Okay, but the actual formal term for them that was supposed to be used is actually it, because animals, you're supposed to use it. So even though Max is a boy, we cannot use he. okay, in this speaking test. So remember that, yeah. So what does it need? We say that, Max's needs are simple. It, you see, I also said he because we are so used to describing the animals with a gender, right? Okay, so we just say it needs food, water, some toys, a roof over its head. It's pretty happy, and we know that this dog is happy because we mentioned that this dog kept wagging its tail. It's not shaking its tail, yeah, it's wagging its tail vigorously. Okay, then we mentioned that every few months we will also bring this pet to the vet. The vet is the animal doctor. Okay, you can't say I brought the pet to a doctor. A doctor is for humans, okay? For animals is actually a vet. Vet is the short form already itself, the full term is a veterinarian, okay? But we don't need to remember the full term, just remember the word vet is enough already. Okay, and the last question, they ask us if we think that people should buy or adopt pets. Okay, and then clearly we are on the side of adoption. We are standing on this side because our pet dog itself is already a pet that is adopted. Obviously, for the rest of our passage, we are not going to suddenly jump ship, change our point of view and say, oh, everyone should buy pets, blah blah blah. No, we mentioned they should adopt, okay? Because when we adopt, we will also not be supporting puppy mills. Oh, I did not mention this, right? In the okay, this is the extra point for those who want to use it. We won't be supporting unethical places such as puppy mills or kitten mills where they will breed the animals cruelly, okay, without letting the animals rest. The animals are just there to breed until they eventually die. Okay, so that is very, very unethical. So we are not supporting that. Okay, so that's why we want to adopt pets. Okay, and then we also mentioned that Max is just as loyal as any other dog, and I'm sure that if you go to the nearest animal shelter, you will also find the pet. You will also find the animal that is suitable for you. Okay, and we also mentioned that if you don't adopt the animals, they are going to be put down eventually. Put down means the animal shelter, because they cannot afford to feed these animals for too long. Okay, so what they will do is they will inject the animal with some sort of medication and make them pass away in their sleep and all those things. So we are trying to save the animals, so adopt, don't shop. Okay, honestly, if you ask me like why people should buy pets, if we were to elaborate on this point, I guess you can talk about how there's like a guarantee for the animal's health. You know the history of the animal, when is it born, where it was born at, and for sure that it's not carrying any diseases, because certain animals, certain strays, they do carry diseases on them. Okay, especially if they have been wandering on the streets for far too long. Okay, you can mention that when we buy pets, there's a guarantee on the pet's cleanliness, the hygiene. Okay, so there's nothing serious would happen if you bought the pet, and there's a guarantee. If there's anything that is wrong with the pet, you can always return it, or things like that. Okay, all right. So this one I want to mention one thing from what I've noticed, right, from your for your English speaking test part 2, the first 3 points, right, it's always something related to the topic. Okay, just like this, what kind of pet it was, did you adopt or buy the pet, what does it need? It's always this same story, this same narrative. But the last point, if people should buy or adopt pets, right, it's always something kind of related to the topic, but it's not about the topic. I hope you understand what I meant by that. Okay, we look at the example, the previous example. They ask us about our holidays. Where did we go? What activities we did, and what preparations we done. And then you see the last point is also slightly different. They ask us for our point of view whether if it's important for us to go overseas for a holiday. There's still some sort of relation with our main topic, which is going on a vacation, but at the same time they are already switching to something else for the last answer. It's usually kind of like do you agree with A or do you agree with B? If you agree with B, elaborate. If you agree with A, elaborate. Something like that, Okay, so moving on to our part 3 of our SPM English speaking test. So this is when both candidates, you have to engage in a discussion. Now, I would like the both of you to talk about something together for about 3 minutes. The task consists of 2 parts. In the first part, you will discuss something with each other for about 2 minutes, and you have another minute to make a decision together in the second part. Let's begin the discussion. Technology has certainly come a long way. Here are some benefits technology brings us and a question for you to do your discussion with. You now have some time to look at the task. Okay, so please refer to the mind map in the booklet, yeah? Now, begin your discussion. Yeah, this one, just like the part 2 of your speaking test, you will also have 20 seconds to look at the points, to look at the mind map that was given to you. Okay, I can't believe it took me so long to think of the word mind map. Okay, so anyone can start the discussion. It can be candidate A, can be candidate B, it's fine. Okay, I will begin. In my perspective, technology is indeed beneficial, especially when the invention of technology has been proven to improve people's lives. Take our homes as examples. Without light, we wouldn't be able to see in the dark. And without our fridges and kitchen appliances, we wouldn't be able to store and cook our food properly. I agree with your point and would like to elaborate on it further. Technology has also helped us to save time. Ever since private and public vehicles have been created, it will only take us the shortest time to get to our destinations. It's really amazing how these inventions work. And if we want to travel from Malaysia to England, for example, we would be able to reach it within a day just by taking an aeroplane. Thanks to what may be considered as the best technology ever invented, the internet, we have a much wider variety of learning materials and do not need to rely solely on our textbooks, reference books, and teachers. There are even video lessons, slides, and learning materials uploaded onto online platforms for us to do some self-studying. You are right. Speaking of obtaining information online, technology has also enabled us to have access to whatever information we need or are interested in. Through the invention of smartphones, social media platforms, websites, and the internet, learning has never been more convenient, and now no one has any excuses for not being given the chance to learn something, as they could learn the materials themselves through the various free sources online. We can learn important life skills ranging from how to take care of ourselves and our household to speaking and persuasive skills which would benefit us in the workforce. Our technology now plays a major role in boosting our work efficiency. For instance, instead of writing our assignments, reports, and business proposals by hand, we could just type them out and email them over, saving time, money, and effort altogether. We also don't need to be worried about losing our important documents, as they would be saved in our devices automatically. Factories are prime examples of the benefits of technology, where they are able to produce hundreds and thousands of goods within an hour thanks to the machines installed. Technology helps us to break distance barriers too. Thanks to platforms such as Zoom, Google Meet, and WhatsApp, we can now go on a live call or video call with anyone in the world regardless of our locations. This is a groundbreaking invention, as work meetings and international meetings could be done easily just by setting up a date, time, and the link for the call. You have to decide together which is the most beneficial aspect technology has brought us. I would say that technology's best benefit is that it constantly helps to improve our quality of life. Do you agree with me, candidate B? I do actually. I do not think that our lives would function as smoothly or as conveniently without technology. Thank you. I would like to have the booklet back, please. You have been discussing the benefits of technology. Now, let's hear your opinions about this. Have people been relying on technology too much? Yes, there are simply too many individuals who are addicted to technology, and I don't think they would be able to function properly when technology is taken away from them. I would say that the majority of us are using technology at the appropriate amount. It wouldn't be logical if we didn't advance along with technology, and technology is all around us, whether we like it or not. Thank you. That is the end of the speaking test. Okay, now moving on to the part 3 explanation. So it's a very fruitful discussion, as we have seen. Okay, so interlocutor will begin by giving you the booklet where, like I mentioned, you have 20 seconds to look at the mind maps. Okay, so when you start the speaking test, either candidate A or candidate B can start first. Okay, and you have to speak using all of the 6 given points on the mind map. Okay, so let's see. Candidate B started the discussion, right? So she just briefly mentioned I will begin the discussion, and she mentioned a common observation. Okay, she mentioned that technology has been proven to improve people's lives. For example, what is it? Without light, we can't see in the dark. Without our fridges or kitchen appliances, we can't store our food. We can't cook our food properly. So this is a common observation, and is something that I really encourage my students, and I really love to write about common observation in the essays and in my speeches and all those other things, because I feel like common observation, you don't need to purposefully go and read about it. You just need to think about it. How in our lives are we using technology? We use it in our kitchen, we use it when we in our cars, we use it when we go on our phones. All these are common observations. Okay, so candidate A continued the conversation by voicing out that she agrees with whatever candidate B just said, and she also mentioned another common observation, okay, which is the airplanes. Okay, thanks to the invention of airplanes, flights, and all those other things, we can easily get to any destinations that we want just within a day. Okay, even when you have layovers and all those things, technically 24 hours. Yeah, we are not saying that, hey, I took a flight at 8 p.m. How come I only reach England like the next day after 14 hours? That's not within a day. Yes, it is. Okay, because when we mention within a day, we are actually talking about 24 hours, not 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. those kind of days. Yeah, so please be aware. Okay, so a really nice example, okay, formula that I really love to use is this one, okay, which is you start off with a point, and then you add on with an elaboration, give certain types of reasoning to it, and all those other things, and then if possible, add on an example. Okay, so this is a formula which I believe you can use in all of your essays, in your speaking tests, and all those other things, no matter if it's English, Bahasa, or Mandarin. Yeah, so you can use it anywhere and everywhere. Okay, so please remember this formula when you're doing your speaking test, when you're doing your writing, all those other things. Okay, all right, so you will notice, okay, that candidate B just continued the conversation, okay, by adding on another common observation. Okay, so a wider variety of learning materials. This I would also consider it as a type of example. Okay, because it is, all right, because we are saying that we no longer need to just solely rely on our textbook and reference books, because there's just so many free learning materials, okay, and sources online. Okay, even this particular video that you're watching and listening to, you are learning. Okay, it's a type of learning material. All right. Okay, so common observation everywhere. Okay, so candidate A voiced out that she agreed with the point, okay, and then she did a transition, which is, speaking of obtaining information online, technology also allowed us to have access to whatever information that we need or are interested in. So there's a common observation here, which is, thanks to the invention of smartphones, how does this invention benefit us? Okay, we can learn the learning materials. We can also learn important life skills such as blah blah and blah blah. Okay, so just briefly mention what kind of skills, what kind of materials you can learn online. Yeah, just using technology. Okay, and then candidate B continued the conversation by talking about technologies, they play a major role in boosting our work efficiency as well. And then we had to think about how so. Okay, so we don't need, then we mentioned okay, whatever that we are doing on our laptops, it saves time, right? Because we don't need to write out the information, we just need to type. And some people, they are fast typers, so it helps them to save a lot of time, and you can just copy and paste the document over and over again. Okay, things like that. And let's say, and another type of example that I mentioned was factories. okay, which is, factories nowadays, you just need to do a little bit of the settings and the machines will do all of the work for you. So that could be one of the examples that you are using, okay, when you are talking about how technology helps us to boost our work efficiency. All right, the last point that we talked about is how technology helps us to break distant barriers. So unlike in the past, like our grandparents and our parents' when they were younger, so technology nowadays, especially with WhatsApp, Zoom, and Google Meet, and try not to use and many more. If you can only think of 2 examples, just mention WhatsApp and Zoom, WhatsApp and Google Meet. Don't say and many more, because it gives you the perception that you are having you have more ideas that you want to mention but you didn't mention, but in reality it is actually giving the interlocutor the feeling, okay, the vibe, the hint that you are running out of ideas and you just say and many more. Okay, so for me, I hate it when my students use and many more. Okay, so please avoid doing that. Okay, just if you can only think of 2 examples, just mention 2 examples. It's fine, no problems. Okay. All right, so here we mentioned a common observation, okay, which is, the apps that we are using in our current times. It helps us to stay connected, okay, with our friends, our family, regardless of where we are. You could be in England and you can still video call your parents and call your parents, okay? Can't be using excuses such as, the phone bill is really, really expensive. When you call from overseas, you can't use that excuse anymore. And then we add on an adjective mentioning that it's a groundbreaking invention, okay, which is a very, very useful, a very, very impactful invention that benefited us so greatly, okay. And then again, our point plus elaboration plus example formula, okay. So we mentioned that, how does this call work? But if you don't want to mention it because you're running out of time, it's fine, yeah, no problem. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I tend to write longer elaborations because I'm used to doing that. Okay, so yeah, this one I mentioned already. You can elaborate a little. And okay, sorry, this one was the last part, sorry. Here I mentioned, okay, the last question you had to elaborate, right, on, or you had to decide together first, okay, which point was the best point, is the best point. Okay, so here you just mentioned, which point you like, okay, whoever wants to start first can start first, no problem, yeah. And then when, let's say, yeah, when the other candidate already started, and you cannot just say, I agree. You have to elaborate a little bit, okay, even if it's just a tiny elaboration, you still need to do it, okay. You cannot just say, I agree, okay. So like I said, you need to prepare all these things in advance first, okay. And let's not forget, at the end you'll be asked one last question, okay. Both candidates have to answer this question, but you don't need to be engaged in a discussion for this question, okay. But if you want to add on to what the other person has said, okay, elaborate further, you can do that, yeah, okay. But you cannot say, I would like to add on with what candidate A has said, and then you mention the exact same point that candidate A has said. That would be you not contributing to anything new to the conversation, and you might get marks deducted. Okay, so like I said, don't need to be engaged in the discussion when you are doing this particular section. They'll ask you one question. Okay, what is your opinion about this? Do you think people have been relying on technology for too much? You can say yes, you can say no. And again, you just need to give your elaborations and you will be fine. You will notice I made candidate B say yes and give a little bit of elaboration. I made candidate A say kind of neutral, okay. We say that, people are using technology, but I believe that they are using technology at the appropriate amount, okay. Obviously we can't mention that, I don't think people are using technology that much, because that would be a lie, okay. Because even when we go on our phones, or when we use our our vehicles, okay, our cars, we are using technology. So you cannot tell me that, oh, I don't think people are using technology. They are using, we are all using. Okay, you cannot say that, yeah? So please be very, very careful. Please be mindful on what you are saying during your test, yeah? Okay, so we are officially done with the speaking test, and I believe you are now one step closer to getting a better grade in your SPM English speaking test. Okay, congratulations. I hope that you've been paying attention. If you're not, go back to the beginning of this video and rewatch the whole thing. Oh yeah, and I remember I put in this scale, this CEFR scale for you in your booklet, right? So A1 is not the best. A1 is actually the worst score. Okay, and C2 is the best, even though it's a C, yeah, but it is the best. Okay, please remember that. So the score that I'm hoping that you will aim to get is at least a B2. Okay, so because A1 and A2, it just shows that you are like a beginner user, you don't really know the language that well. So I'm hoping that, after watching my videos and after practicing on your own, oh yeah, speaking of practicing on your own, please practice with your mouth open, pronouncing the words and all those things. Don't just write the answer and practice in your heart, because when you do that, during the actual test, you might stumble, you might stutter over your words, and that's not gonna reflect well on you. Okay, so please be aware, please be careful. Okay, and what was I saying just now? Oh my god, I had a point just now. Okay, so remember to practice. And okay, I remember what I wanted to say already. Okay, please make sure that when you are doing your test, okay, make sure you look at the time, but of course not stare at the time for so long. How do you do that? Okay, without actually looking at the time. Very simple. Practice. Okay, so you think about your normal pace, PACE, your speed when you're talking. Okay, if you're someone who is a fast speaker like me, like right now, this is me actually slowing down so that I don't talk too fast accidentally, and you cannot understand or cannot hear anything I say. I'm trying to talk very slow already at the moment because I'm very, very used to speaking in a very fast pace because of the environment I grew up in and because, of university and stuff like that. Okay, never mind, I'm getting off the rails a little bit. So practice and kind of figure out how fast can you talk when you are talking. Okay, I hope you understand what I meant by that. Okay, so figure out all these things, yeah? Okay, before you go for your speaking test. So when you figure out how fast you talk and how long it will take for you to speak about a subject, when you eventually do your speaking test, you won't need to stare at the clock, you won't need to look at the time or be worried about the time already. Okay, so please be aware, yeah? Alright, so that'll be all for today's lesson. So I'll see you in the next video, the second lesson. Okay, bye scholar. Hope you have done a great preparation for this and have obtained a valuable lesson of what we have learned today from this video. Okay, I'll see you in your second lesson after you have taken a break. Alright, bye.